Good afternoon. Welcome to Kenya News Update today. I'm your host, and we're diving deep into breaking news that affects millions across the nation. The Kenya Meteorological Department has just issued a severe weather warning for the next 24 hours, projecting widespread and potentially dangerous rainfall across southern regions. This forecast, valid until Monday, February 23rd, comes with stark warnings of very heavy downpours that could trigger flash floods, disrupt transport, and endanger lives. But this story isn't just about rain. It's about a nation caught between two extremes, severe drought in some regions and now impending deluge in others. It's about government preparedness, resource allocation, and the complex challenge of managing a dual crisis. We'll analyze the specific forecast details, examine the government's response, including a major relief food announcement from CS Ruku, and explore what this means for Kenyans on the ground. We'll also look at the broader context of climate volatility and national resilience. This is a 12-minute deep dive. Let's begin. First, the hard facts from the Kenya Met Department. Their 24-hour outlook, released this afternoon, is unusually severe for this time of year. The forecast indicates widespread rainfall across the southern parts of the country, with specific emphasis on the Lake Victoria Basin, the highlands west of the Rift Valley, the central highlands including Nairobi, and the southeastern lowlands. The department has explicitly stated that some areas within these zones are likely to receive very heavy downpours exceeding 40 millimeters in a 24-hour period. For context, 40 millimeters of rain in a day is considered a heavy rainfall event capable of causing significant runoff and flooding, especially in urban areas with poor drainage. The advisory warns residents in these regions to be on high alert for flash floods, reduced visibility on roads, and potential damage to temporary structures. This warning is not being taken lightly by county disaster management teams, who are now activating their emergency protocols. Now, let's visualize the risk. The Kenya Met Department has categorized the threat levels across four primary zones. The Lake Victoria Basin, including counties like Kisumu, Siaya, and Homa Bay, faces the highest alert level, with a projected 85% probability of severe storms. The Central Highlands, encompassing Nairobi, Kiambu, and Murang'a, are at a 75% high-risk probability. The highlands west of the Rift, like Kericho and Nandi, are at 70%, and the southeastern lowlands, including Kitui and Makueni, are at a 65% probability. This isn't just scattered showers. This is a coordinated, widespread weather system moving across the southern half of the nation. The timing is also critical. The peak intensity is expected between 3 p.m. today and 6 a.m. tomorrow, covering the evening commute and overnight hours when visibility is lowest and emergency response can be most challenging. The department has advised against all non-essential travel in these regions during this window, a rare and serious recommendation. This severe weather warning arrives against a backdrop of an ongoing national crisis, drought. Just yesterday, February 21st, Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi, often referred to as CS Ruku, made a major announcement. He assured the public that the government has secured enough relief food for drought-hit Kenyans, specifically addressing 23 counties that have been under a prolonged dry spell. He stated the National Cereals and Produce Board, NCPB, warehouses currently hold 2.5 million bags of maize and 500,000 bags of rice, earmarked for distribution. Furthermore, he announced an additional procurement of 1 million bags of beans and 200,000 metric tons of fortified flour. However, in that same breath, CS Ruku issued a stark warning to government officials, cautioning against the diversion of this aid. He emphasized that any official caught misappropriating relief food would face immediate dismissal and prosecution. This announcement, viewed by over 192,000 people on Citizen TV alone, highlights the government's attempt to manage two simultaneous disasters, one of scarcity and one of excess. Let's break down the numbers on this dual crisis. On one side, you have the impending rainfall threatening millions. Initial estimates from the National Disaster Operations Center, NDOC, suggest that up to 5 million people live in the high and medium risk zones outlined by the Met Department. On the other side, you have the ongoing drought response. CS Ruku's announced food stocks translate to approximately 125,000 metric tons of grain. When you factor in the planned distribution to an estimated 3.2 million drought-affected individuals across 23 counties, that stockpile, if delivered efficiently, could provide a baseline food ration for approximately 45 days. The cost of this emergency procurement and logistics is staggering. Independent analysts at the Institute for Economic Affairs estimate the combined cost of drought response and flood preparedness mobilization in the last quarter to be in the region of 15 billion shillings. This includes food, non-food items, fuel for distribution trucks, and pre-positioning of sandbags and rescue equipment by the Kenya Red Cross and the National Youth Service. The debate now centers on preparedness and resource allocation. Critics argue that the government's response is reactive, not proactive. They point to the fact that the Met Department's warning, while accurate, comes with less than 24 hours of lead time for full-scale mobilization. Where were the earlier advisories, they ask. Furthermore, the juxtaposition of the flood warning and the drought relief announcement raises questions about logistical capabilities. Are the same trucks and personnel meant for drought relief now being redirected for potential flood rescue? C.S. Ruku's warning about food diversion speaks to a deep-seated lack of trust in the distribution system, a concern that becomes even more critical when dealing with fast-moving flood disasters, where aid needs to be immediate and unimpeded. Proponents of the government's approach, however, highlight the complexity of forecasting. Weather models, they argue, only achieve high certainty within a 24 to 36-hour window. The Kenya Met Department is working with the best available technology, and issuing this warning now is the responsible course of action. On the logistics front, they point to the devolved system. County governments, they argue, should have their own disaster contingency funds and response units. The national government's role is to provide the macro warning and supplement county efforts where needed. The fact that C.S. Ruku is publicly warning officials about diversion, they say, is a sign of transparency and a commitment to accountability, aiming to deter malpractice before it happens. Let's look at the potential economic impact. The affected southern regions are economic powerhouses. Nairobi contributes over 60% of the nation's GDP. The Lake Basin region is an agricultural hub. A major flood event disrupting road and rail links, like the Nairobi-Nakuru Highway or the railway to Mombasa, could cost the economy an estimated 500 million shillings per day in lost productivity and transport delays. The agriculture sector stands to lose significantly. In the drought-stricken north, the loss is from crop failure. In the south, now facing floods, the risk is to ready-to-harvest produce in counties like Nyandarua, potatoes, and Kericho tea. The Tea Board of Kenya has issued its own advisory to farmers in high-altitude areas, warning that heavy rain on saturated ground could lead to landslides that destroy tea bushes, a capital loss that takes years to recover from. Beyond the immediate crisis, this event is a case study in climate volatility. Scientists have long warned that climate change would not simply mean hotter temperatures, but more extreme and erratic weather patterns, longer droughts followed by more intense rainfall. What Kenya is experiencing, severe drought in one region, threatening floods in another, fits that pattern precisely. The question for policymakers is whether national infrastructure and disaster management frameworks are built for this new normal. Are drainage systems in cities like Nairobi designed for 40-millimeter downpours? Are early warning systems robust enough to give farmers and residents more time to prepare? The budget allocated to the Met Department for advanced radar and modeling technology is a point of contention. For the fiscal year 2025/2026, that budget stands at 2.3 billion shillings. Critics argue it needs to be doubled to achieve world-class, localized forecasting. On the ground, the reaction is a mix of anxiety and weary resilience. In Nairobi's informal settlements, residents are checking their roofs and clearing drainage ditches, a routine they know too well. In Kisumu, fishermen are being advised to stay ashore, threatening a day's income. Meanwhile, in drought-hit counties like Turkana, the news of heavy rain elsewhere is met with frustration. Why can't this rain come to us is a common sentiment. This geographical imbalance of water, too much here, too little there, underscores the national challenge of water management and the long-discussed, slow-moving projects for national water transfer and large-scale storage. As we approach the peak of the forecasted storm window, all eyes are on the response. The Kenya Red Cross has deployed 120 personnel and 30 rapid response vehicles to the high-risk zones. The National Police Service has put its air wing on standby for possible search and rescue. County governments are activating their emergency lines. The true test will come in the next 18 hours. Will the rainfall meet the severe forecast? Will drainage systems hold? Will relief food for the drought regions get moving before roads are cut off by floods? And ultimately, will the government systems, so often criticized for being siloed and slow, demonstrate coordinated efficiency in the face of a dual threat crisis. This event is more than a weather report. It's a stress test for Kenya's institutions, a measure of its preparedness, and a reminder of the increasing climate pressures facing the nation. The announcements from the Met Department and CS Ru are the opening moves. The coming hours will reveal the nation's resilience. We will continue to monitor the situation and bring you updates. For now, if you are in the affected regions, please heed the warnings, avoid flooded areas, do not attempt to cross swollen rivers, and stay informed through official channels. The balance between drought and flood is a precarious one, and today, Kenya is walking that tightrope. Subscribe to Kenya News Update today for continuing coverage on this developing story and all news that matters to you.